So welcome. Today I have Marcelle Crinean with me today. Marcelle is not only a really good friend, but a colleague of mine. We work together, referred clients. We also do workshops together. Marcelle is a leading eating psychology coach, does solution-focused hypnotherapy, deals a lot with just stress, a lot of that stuff like that. We've done some workshops together where we deal just about that. You've done workshops as well on weight loss and diets. You talks on all of that as well. One of the big reasons why Marcelle and I work together, why I refer to Marcelle, is because of the solution-focused approach, in that it's what can we do, right? How can we sort it? Yeah. I mean, it's all well and good finding out what's wrong, but we want to know how we move on from it.
Exactly right, and that's my whole philosophy, which is you can't change the past, you can refer to it, but you can't change it. Right. The most important thing for me, for people who come to see me, is you are where you are, so how do we help you feel better from now?
And that's usually when you're in that place where you're finally perhaps ready to get help or getting help, that's actually where you're at in your head. You're fed up with being ill and you just want to move forward.
Yeah, some people don't, right? Some people want to kind of, my analogy is, I call it a stress bucket. You know, we're filling up our stress bucket day in, day out with low-level chronic stress, you know, day-to-day stuff, but also traumas will rapidly fill the bucket. Sure. Now, some people kind of want to go wading in the bucket to see what's in there, to find the causes of things. They really want to understand how they've ended up. Right. But some people don't. Some people kind of want to just say, do you know what, I don't need to know how, I don't need to know what's in it, I just want to empty it. Yeah. So I work with those people. Right. There are, you know, plenty of different types of therapists and coaches who will work with the past, but I'm much more about the future and solutions.
Well, that's certainly why I've referred to you, and that's certainly my approach. And in fact, that whole thing about, right, let's move forward, what can we do? I think in general, if you had to ask people, that whole bit more of a positive approach to things, being more confident, you know, glass half full kind of person is clearly the preference, right? You'd rather be that than you're sort of just miserable and downtrodden. But is there any, because this is what we're discussing in this series, my approach to sort of healthy living, having the element of diet, exercise or movement, and then positive lifestyle habits, one of which is just having a positive mindset. But is there something actually physiologically going on inside of me when I'm happy, when I'm in a good place mentally?
Yeah, absolutely. So most people, or a lot of people, have heard of serotonin. It's sometimes called our happy hormone.
Oh, right, yes.
It's a neurotransmitter in our brain that most people associate with happy feelings, okay, with feelings of mental well-being, if you like. It gives us the ability to cope. It gives us the ability to feel a bit more confident in life. We're just more able to cope in life. And that's created by our brain, if you like, when we are mainly doing three things. So when we are thinking positively, so when we're thinking about positive things, good things, we're feeling grateful for things in our life, we are creating that chemical. And it's that chemical that makes us feel happy, makes us feel more content, makes us feel confident.
Okay.
When we're doing exercise. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of people, especially your clients, will understand that when they're doing exercise and they're doing positive exercise, so something that they love doing, they get that rush of endorphins at the end, right? They feel good for doing the exercise and they feel more positive. Again, that's serotonin.
So that can be then, you can almost, I say wave the magic wand, but you can call on that or create that. Can you do this?
You have to
yourself out.
You have to create it, actually. So for people who are depressed, let's kind of do the
really
opposite
extreme,
side,
yeah,
really extreme. So people who suffer from depression, if you think about people who suffer from depression, they're generally not interacting with other people. Okay, they're generally kind of keeping themselves to themselves, staying at home, not socializing. They are not thinking about positive things, they're thinking about negative things. Sure. And generally they're not moving very much, they're not exercising or doing anything like that. So those three things, positive thinking, positive social interaction, positive exercise, those three things are the things that are going to help you create the serotonin. If you're not doing any of those things, then you're not creating the serotonin, and you're going to feel, well, at best miserable, at worst completely depressed. And most, if you think about antidepressants that are out there on the market, some of them will kind of mimic the effects of serotonin, but a lot of them will extend the shelf life of serotonin, if you like. So you still have to create it.
You have to create it before those drugs even can.
Yeah, you have to
prolong the high.
It's really, really important to create it. And you know, I think some people, or a lot of people, we tend to equate everything from the neck up with mental health, and everything from the neck down as physical health.
Sure.
But there's no lever, there's no trap door. You know, the two things are connected. So serotonin is actually in our gastrointestinal tract as well. You know, happy mind really is kind of happy body.
Well, that's the other things. A part of this, you know, when I've been talking about, you know, sort of the three pillars of what I see as important for healthy living is this positive lifestyle habits, includes positive mind, eating well, diet and exercise. You then see that actually the one almost can't happen if the other one doesn't. So if you're not eating well, your gut flora can be affected, and we know that then serotonin and there's other chemicals in there that, and also gut flora can turn off some of the cortisol effects as well. So that can have an effect on your immune system. And then, so if you're physically not feeling well, then mentally you don't feel well, then you don't want to eat well, you don't want to exercise. And so it all just spins around.
Which is why we work so well together, right? Because I'm mind in your body. But it's really true that you know, you kind of, a stressed mind can't live in a relaxed body. And a relaxed mind can't live in a stressed body. So it's interesting that you mentioned cortisol. So for me, cortisol is the stress chemical.
Sure.
But again, it's created by the brain. So by stress, if I define what I mean by stress for me is the body's physical response to a real or imagined threat. So our brain, you know, we are designed, if you like, to survive. You know, think of survival of the fittest. The most important part of our brain, sometimes people refer to it as the chimp brain, if you like, but it's the part of our brain that's really primitive, and it's focused on survival. Its whole job is to, well, there's one part of our brain at least, that's its whole job is to keep us alive. So in primitive times, you know, when there was a saber-toothed tiger or something chasing us, that part of our brain was on full alert. And you know, if it heard a crack or, you know, it noticed there was something chasing us, it would release chemicals into our body to help us survive the threat. And, you know, those chemicals today, we kind of know as things like adrenaline. Adrenaline is going to help us run fast, basically, because running away is one of the things that we could do to get away from the threat. Okay? And the other one is cortisol and noradrenaline, and a whole kind of little concoction of stress chemicals that ultimately make our hands strong so we can fight, and our feet strong so we can run, which is why it's the fight-flight area of our brain. Now that was great in primitive times, but our brain hasn't really understood that we don't live in those times, so it now interprets anything as stress. It can't tell the difference between a real threat and an imagined threat to our survival. So, you know, our boss shouting at us, as far as our primitive brain's concerned, that's a stressful event, and therefore we get the same stress chemicals that we would when a saber-toothed tiger was chasing us.
So that's a really important thing, because stress, and it was interesting you started off saying what your definition of stress was, because it's a very loose term at the minute. But one of the things you need to remember is exactly that. If stress is relevant, so while you can look at somebody and go, oh, why are they so stressed? You know, you can't. That's what's stressful for you. It's personal. It's the way your body reacts is physiologically is the same way, no matter whether it was some grievance, divorce, illness, anything. Yeah, your body reacts in exactly the same way to a real threat or an imagined threat. And you're absolutely right, it's personal because of another area in our brain. It's called the hippocampus. It's kind of like our, not really memory store, but it's where we store our experiences and our automatic behaviours and our automatic thoughts and all of that kind of stuff. And based on my perception of the world,
I'm going to see things
Right.
differently
Sure.
to your perception of the world.
Sure.
So what's in your filing cabinet with your experiences and your perception of the world is different to my perception of the world and my experiences in my filing cabinet. So the fight-flight area will kind of dip into our filing cabinets, if you like, and kind of say,
perhaps go, oh, we've been here before.
Yeah,
or,
well, and check and say, is this a stressful, is this a threat?
right.
And my filing cabinet might say yes, where yours might say no.
Okay.
So if my filing cabinet says, yes, my boss shouting at me is a threat to my survival, then I get that same stress physiology. Whereas if I'm kind of somebody that really doesn't care if my boss shouts at me or not, then I'm not going to get that same news. So it's a physiology. Stress is a physiology based on the chemicals that are released by the brain.
And then to come back to just the term you used before, which I've used many a times explaining to my own clients, is of course the stress bucket, right? Being full or empty. And exercise, of course, is one of the ways that you can empty that stress bucket.
You can. And my only caveat would be, so yes, you can, but you need it to not be such high stress exercise that you're kind of putting in stress as a kind of subconscious
Because
thing.
again, if we come back to the fact that the body doesn't differentiate, or the brain doesn't differentiate between different types of stress, exercise every day, all day for super long, the body suddenly goes, oh my word, this is too much.
Exactly right. And so it goes back to this little part of our brain. It's called the amygdala. It kind of operates like our security guards, and because it's pretty dumb, really, it's our primitive brain. If you are running, for example, running, or just even moving fast in life, our brain, that little part of our brain says, well, if I'm running that fast, there must be a saber-toothed tiger chasing me, or there must be a polar bear chasing me. And therefore, we get the same stress physiology. And the problem today is we live in a fast-paced life. You know, our internet doesn't come on, we get stressed. You know, we're running to drop the kids at school, we're eating on the run. And that stress is really going to affect lots of things. So yes, we move into that stress physiology, so we start to feel that stress in our body, we start to feel that effect of those chemicals trying to make our hands strong. So we start
trying to get ready to fight the threat.
But most people will understand that when they feel stressed, they feel it, right, in their neck and their shoulders. That's us getting ready to fight, right? Or in our legs getting ready to run. And whilst that's happening, our brain does two things that are kind of pertinent to what we talk about in our daily lives. One is it wants us to fight or run, and that's it, because those are pretty much the only two scenarios under which we have a chance of surviving the threat.
Okay.
Under no circumstances.
Oh, it doesn't have an option there of, well, let's discuss the problem and think about it.
Exactly right. But here's the thing, our brilliant logic brain, our intellectual brain, the one that we have developed over thousands of years, is the intellect, right? It wants to go, well, hold on a second, there are no saber-toothed tigers here, this can't possibly be real. So our brain doesn't want us doing that. It doesn't want us using our intellectual brain.
Because while we're thinking
and doing exactly whilst we're thinking, we're wasting time, precious time that we could be using in fighting or running. So unfortunately, our thinking brain gets switched off. Okay, and that has a lot of impact. One, I mean, most people who come to see me will say, you know, when they're feeling stressed, they just can't think clearly. Yeah, they just can't think clearly. Well, that's why they can't think clearly, because their thinking brain has kind of been switched off by the stress in their body. And of course, that's relative to the stress bucket. If the stress bucket's full, the brain's going to get switched off more quickly.
Just to be fair to the body, the design is such that you can cope with a bit of stress. You know, you don't
stress
have one.
Is good.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it's not good.
Sure.
We all need it. Right?
Sure, and that's why the bucket description is really good, because a little bit in that bucket, not a problem, right? But if every day, all day, that's and never having any release,
and you're not emptying it. And that's why sleep is so important, actually, because it's our kind of biological.
Well, there's another one. People also struggle often to make the connection that if you're not sleeping, it's because you're stressed, and that stress can just be from, you know, I know somebody recently who's not getting a lot of sleep because of their 2 young children, right? And he said, I just know I'm making a few mistakes at work here and there, right?
You're not thinking.
your thinking brain's been switched off because your body's going,
brains.
oh my word, we need to sleep, what can I do to get back to
Exactly
sleep?
right.
Yeah.
Well, cortisol, as well as being our stress hormone, is our awake hormone, right? We actually need it to wake up in the morning. So it's a really, really important thing for us to have. But too much of it, and then we're awake.
Yeah.
And the problem is, the more cortisol we have, the more we then start to think and worry, because our primitive brain, the brain that's our fight-flight area, it's pre-programmed to focus on all the negatives, right? For our survival, we have to constantly worry about where the saber-toothed tiger is. Is it following me? Is it behind me? Is everyone safe? Am I safe? Is my family safe?
Yeah.
What's going to happen if it gets to me? So we constantly focus on all of the negative stuff, and that's going to keep us then worried. And the more we worry, the more we're thinking negatively. The more negatively we think, the more cortisol we create. So, and the cycle goes on. And so, I mean, when we started was with serotonin, like our happy hormone, if you like, the neurotransmitter in our brain that regulates mood. It also regulates sleep. And it helps to regulate, it plays a part in the regulation of sleep and also the regulation of appetite. So if we kind of go back to my kind of eating psychology pattern, if you like, stress is a major factor in weight gain. And especially fat around the middle, because cortisol will cause us to store
That's
fat
where it lays down.
Yeah, exactly right. So whilst we're feeling stressed, whilst our brain thinks we're running away from danger, and we're not thinking clearly, we're also not making good decisions about the food that we're eating.
So it's not. So this is where we, in a way, give everybody the excuse, right? Which is to say, because that's then typically when the person goes, and I'm overweight. That's it. I'm not eating today, and adds more stress to their day. And you're not going to shift weight with that kind of mindset, no matter what you're doing.
No, you're not.
At that point, you have to actually take stock. Get back on track with your sleep. The simple, ironically, the easiest things to control before you then start doing slightly more difficult things, which is get back into a bit more physical exercise, dieting, and things like that. So that's
just sleep.
And just sleep. That's a big thing. Yeah.
Even it's anything you can do to trick your primitive brain into understanding there's no danger.
Yeah, we're okay.
We're okay. It's okay. Yeah. And sometimes you can just say that it's. You know, my favourite line to myself is kind of, it's okay, no one's going to die if I'm 2 minutes late. It's that. And so breathing is really important and that's what we teach, right?
Well, one of the other things with the breathing, which I think people tend to overlook, I mean, people can get the whole, oh yes, we need to breathe properly and all of that, and we go into that quite in detail in our workshops. But one of the things is that I know people who struggle with asthma, and if they're their breathing pattern is quite shallow, and their breathing pattern has been disrupted because of the condition. But then they're resting, and when they're not asthmatic, but when they're just having normal breathing pattern, it's very short and shallow. And one of the things with that I remember we've covered is that short and shallow breathing mimics hyperventilation, mimics that whole state of when you're in a panic. So even though your body's going, oh, hang on, what's going on with that breathing? Oh, that must be because I'm stressed. Exactly right. And so even from not working on with just having a medical condition where that can then affect, you're still sending off those triggers, that cycle that says, oh my word, we're stressed, stay in that heightened state.
It really is. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And of course, cortisol is plays a big part in balancing your blood sugars. It raises your blood sugars. It gives you energy because you need to be in a state to fight this.
Yeah.
And one of the things we also cover in the diet workshops is exactly one of the first things people do is that, right, I'm not eating, I'm not doing it, but like we've just established, that is then perceived as a second threat.
Yeah.
The body goes, right, food's not coming in.
We must be starving.
We must be starving.
We must be starving.
So I'm going to hand down the hashes.
Exactly
down the hashes.
Exactly right.
Hatches. Yeah. And it becomes, and listen, it's no, I mean, even knowing this stuff, it's not like we're oblivious to stress. I mean, you said yourself there, your own little things we have to say, it's okay. One's going to die, just calm down. You find yourself
just breathing. Breathing is the best strategy. I teach it to all my anxious clients, my depressed clients, my miserable clients, and my eating psychology clients. Just breathe, because if you can just breathe in a really relaxed way, our brain kind of goes, well, if I'm feeling this relaxed, There can't possibly be any threat.
Yeah, the body's not in a panic, so, all right, must be fine.
So then, guess what? A whole pile of stuff happens. My breathing starts to regulate. My body starts to go into relaxation physiology rather than a stress physiology. I can start to think more clearly, get access to my thinking brain. And also, actually, so we haven't even talked about this, but cortisol, stress physiology also switches off our digestion, because we don't need to be digesting our food when we're running away from the saber-toothed tiger either. So conversely, relaxation physiology, guess what? My digestion starts to fire up. I start to regulate appetite. All
cycles just kind of switch on back on again, you know, the normal sort of natural whole cycles. Yeah, I mean, and that's the follies of modern day living. I mean, there is that, but essentially anything that just slows that pace, you know. So we've spoken about breathing, sleep also just brings that down. Of course, we know, everybody knows the thing with electronics and all of that.
Blue light.
And
even, so I just, in fact, I just wrote a blog, so the questions I'm being asked at the moment, because obviously I help people sleep better, is how do I sleep in this heat? Because it's, you know, it's uncharacteristically warm. And as well as, you know, the blue light from all of our electronics affecting our sleep, they give out heat.
Yeah.
So if it's too hot, ta-da, switch them off, right? Just switch off electronics, because they're actually giving out heat. Switch them off when you don't need them. Switch the kettle off, switch the TV off, switch stuff off. Because if you've ever, I don't know if you've ever done it, when I pick up my mobile phone,
it's super hot.
It's super warm. They're emitting heat.
Not to mention all radiation and geothermal straight thing.
But switch them off. It's kind of almost a no-brainer. That's my number one tip. If you want to switch off stuff that's going to give out heat.
But the other thing also then with the exercise, and so exercise, breathing, all these things, they actually just bring you back into the moment, right? So when if I'm having somebody do some squats or we're lifting weights or something, you're really focusing on, right, getting those weights up or
am I doing the technique right?
So you're in that moment, right? And so it doesn't have to even be that type of exercise. It can be an exercise in writing. We both know a woman who does a lot of stitching, right? Just being in that moment, stitching, quilting, just there, focusing on that one thing brings you into that moment.
And I do that too, actually. So I knit. I love to knit. And I remember getting really hung up on what am I going to knit, you know, let me find. And then I realised it actually doesn't matter, because it's the action of knitting. That's the calming thing. So I just kind of knit scarves. I mean, they end up really long, these scarves, because I'm not doing it for the result of the knitting. Exactly. I'm just doing it for the actual calm kind of.
But then that's why you see the rise of mindfulness. Of course, that's really come up in a big way. And I know you. That's another thing with different definitions. I know. But
Yeah, so my definition of mindfulness is the one that kind of John Kabat-Zinn used, which is mindfulness is the act of staying focused on the present moment on purpose.
On purpose, I like that.
Without judgment.
Ooh.
Okay. And with acceptance. So in other words, you're just accepting what's happening. You're not judging what's happening, but you're kind of focused on the right now. And the reason that staying focused on the present moment is really important, so that it goes back to our primitive brain. So our primitive brain, when we're feeling stressed, when we're in that fight-flight area of our brain, what our brain is doing is either taking us to the future what-if scenarios. What if the danger gets me? What if? So it's trying to take us to the future in a negative way. Or it's kind of going, or it's taking us to the past. It's reminding us of things that are in our filing cabinet.
Right.
So what our primitive brain isn't doing in that moment is staying focused on the fact that now in the present,
it's either in the past
guess
or in
what?
The future.
There's no saber-toothed tiger, right? It's not doing that. So staying focused in the present moment is really, really important, because our brain will try and take us to the past, where we know what that person, you know, we know from experience that our kids never going to tidy their room, right? Because they've never tidied it in the past. Or, you know, and we're using information from the past to predict the future, which again, primitive times, we needed to be able to do. If we were out hunting, gathering, we needed to remember the last time we went hunting, where we saw the bison, where we saw the berries, use that to predict where we might find the food again.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a skill from the past, but unfortunately we don't spend enough time focused on the present moment.
So, okay, so we'll round off with then some tips or strategies, and I guess those would include something like that, right? That brings you to, in managing stress, or just in trying to keep a positive mindset, would be about staying present.
Yeah, it would. I mean, so to be fair, most of my clients, if they came to me and I said to them, just try and think positive, like I'd have no clients and it would take me. So it's
pull yourself out of it. Yeah.
It's harder to do than you might think, especially if you're not somebody that naturally does it. But think of it as a skill. Okay. So, and I tend to try and explain it as balanced thinking. So we're not going for Disney positives, right? So we're not going for my life is perfect. There's no rainbows or unicorns. But just have a think about what you can be grateful for today. Have a think about one good thing, just one thing, tiny thing that's been good in your day. And my kind of analogy that I always use is when you look up at the stars at night and you look at the sky, there's always one bright star, one big bright star in the sky. You can see it without even trying. But if you kind of change your focus a little bit, behind that one big star, you can see suddenly these little stars pop up. Like they suddenly weren't there before and they're just popping up in the sky. And the more you focus, the more you see hundreds, thousands of tiny stars. Now, if you took the big bright star out of the sky, you still have a really bright sky because there's hundreds and thousands of tiny little ones. But if you took all the hundreds and thousands of tiny little stars out of the sky, all you'd have is a dark sky with one bright thing in it. So people always at the beginning, when I say try and think about something good, they think I mean I've won the lottery. Or, but actually those things don't come along very often.
I'm smiling.
So it's the little things.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I did this exercise with my son sometimes, where I go, in the morning he's waking, I'm just grumpy, getting ready for school. I say 3 things you're grateful for. Yeah. And he's all like, oh, and then he goes, oh, that was nothing to be grateful for, all grumpy like this. And I go, well, I'll give you mine. And I go, I'm glad that I found the toothpaste cap on the toothpaste today. For a change, it wasn't, you know. And actually I did that first to make him laugh, but then actually he started going, well, oh, thank goodness I remembered to put my school uniform out. I was so pleased that I had polished my school shoes last night, so I didn't have to do it this morning. Right. And then you start going, exactly.
And did you start smiling instead of being grumpy?
In fact, exactly right. Yeah. But sometimes it's those the converse of that is, sometimes it's that one thing, like the toothpaste lid not being on or the back door not being locked again, that can ruin your whole morning. Or you go, oh my God, I didn't close the window or whatever. So ironically, in noticing it, that it wasn't that way, can actually set you up for that.
Well, it can. It's because remember our primitive brain is pre-programmed to focus on the negatives for our survival. It's not pre-programmed to remember the positive stuff.
And they do say on this is probably a whole other area of this, but they do even say with the whole, there was an ex-Marine or something who said, start by just getting up in the morning and making your bed. Yeah. Because once you've done one thing, you've achieved one thing, there's that whole, I've done one thing today.
And make it a small thing. Don't try and make it too big a thing, right? So if you had to think that you had to make every single bed in your house, do all the washing up, empty the dishwasher, hoover, get all clothes ironed, that would be so overwhelming. Whereas if you thought, okay, do you know what? I'm just going to empty the dishwasher. One thing, do one thing. And if emptying the dishwasher feels too overwhelming, I'm just going to empty the top tray of the dishwasher. I'm just going to take the glasses out. It doesn't, just agree with your brain to do one small thing. You're absolutely right. Just make it.
But I even see that, and you're right, it's not that easy, because I even see that with clients that people struggle to acknowledge just the little wins, you know? So if I'm dealing with someone and maybe weight loss is the goal, or getting fit, or, you know, there's the whole, like you say, focusing on the negative, oh, I couldn't get out for my run today. And so I'm like, yeah, okay. So I just managed to walk really quickly to the bus stop, and then I made sure that I didn't, I didn't stand, and I walked up the stairs and blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. You managed, I'm almost more proud of you that you managed the situation, because it's never always going to present itself perfectly, right?
Exactly. And I mean, you know, people are going to go, oh, I lost half pound this week, but if they gained half a pound, wow, it's the end of their world, right?
Exactly. So you've got to acknowledge the little wins. Exactly.
It's really important, and even write them down, because guess what? In half an hour's time, your brain isn't going to remember them. So just write them down. Write down. My god daughter, actually. So she's very creative, and every year she creates this like papier-mâché jar kind of thing that she's decorated for Christmas. And then for the rest of the year, the family, so my best friend, her husband, and then my 2 godchildren, every night at dinner, they write down one thing that they're grateful for and they put it in the jar.
I've heard of this. That's fantastic.
And then on New Year's Eve, they crack open the jar and they read all of the things that they've been grateful for over the year.
Right, so
and that's such a great way to start the year.
We've got a few more months left for the rest of the year. I think I'm going to
start now.
That. Yeah, so we've got.
Don't wait till Monday. Everyone thinks that everything has to wait.
No.
Start now. Start now. And it can be just a tiny thing. Something.
Okay, so let's go 3 things to do right now at the end of watching this. So
breathe. So just gentle breathing. I call it 5-2-7 breathing, but it's kind of breathing in for a count of 5, holding for a count of 2, breathing out for a count of 7. And when I say breathe in for a count of 5, I don't mean to 100% capacity. I mean just about 70% capacity. Just hold it, and then breathe. Exactly right. Okay, and then just breathe out. And to be honest, the numbers are less important than making sure that your out breath is longer than your in breath. Because that signals to the brain the danger zone. So breathing. Write down one good thing that's happened today, or one thing that you're grateful for today.
Okay. That's another way of putting it, because people struggle with what am I grateful for? One good thing that happened today.
One good thing. So for me today, even on the way here,
no traffic.
I was just about to say, I can't tell you how many green traffic lights I went through. No traffic. Parked easily. Just so many little things. So that was good, and lots of people let me out in the traffic, so that was quite nice. But yeah, count the little wins. So that's 2. 3, I guess, if I mean, exercise is a great one, but it doesn't have to
empty
be
the stress bucket. And some way, was that too broad?
That's hard to do.
That
so
is,
I think
just suddenly do it.
Just suddenly do it. So I would say switch off your electronics.
Let's go with that.
At least 2 hours before you go to bed if you can.
And not standby. We're talking off.
If 2 hours, most people when I say that, they balk at that. It's like 2 hours. I'm like, yeah, kind of should be 4 really. Just start 10 minutes earlier than you would do now. But 5 minutes. If 10 minutes is too difficult, just switch it off 5 minutes before, and then just keep reducing it by 5 minutes until eventually you're switching off a couple of hours before you go to bed.
That's great. 3 tips. You can do them now. You don't have to, because that adds stress.
Yeah, you don't, and that is exactly right. We didn't even talk about how thoughts create stress, because they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, just write down one good thing or one thing you're grateful for every day. Breathe, and then just try and switch off your electronics 5 minutes before you switch them off now.
All little steps which feed into, and much of what we've been discussing in this series. All of that helps every other aspect of your life, and that's, like I've said 1,000 times throughout the series, is you never get it all 100% correct, right? You never do, but it's a constant flowing thing, and every little win in this area will have a knock-on effect in that area, which then gives you the impetus to carry on in that area. Yeah. So just keep going.
I think it is. I mean, so my 3 things that I always tell my client, we always work on. So remember the 3 things that create serotonin. One is positive thinking, so writing down that one thing that you're grateful for that's been good in your day. One is positive exercise, so how can you increase the amount of exercise that you do? And that can just be gentle walking.
Walking doesn't have to be a hardcore gym session.
And in fact, gentle walking is really great, because when we're walking gently, our brain goes, well, that can't possibly be a polar bear chasing me, because I'm walking so gently. And then the other one is sit with friends. Socialising. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that one, but that's a super
I mentioned that in
one.
In the first episode in the series, in fact, and just talking about that, about socialising, and
really important.
It's just reinforcing.
Well, it's tribe.
Yeah.
So back to that primitive time, when we were hunting and gathering and we were in a tribe, we're safer.
Yeah.
So therefore, our brain doesn't feel that we're as at risk of being eaten. But when we're out hunting and gathering on our own, that's quite.
And
we're at biggest risk.
And it's a shared load, right? Because you suddenly, if you're on your own, you're going, okay, that's the decision I'm taking. Is it right? Isn't it right? If you suddenly got a shared load of somebody, everyone's sort of agreeing the same decision. That's all. It's
really important. Being part of a tribe, and I mean, you and I were kind of discussing this earlier, kind of off camera, but being part of a tribe that you want to be part of, That's really important.
Yeah.
You know, pick which tribe you're in.
Yeah.
Make sure it's a supportive tribe.
Yeah, not the one that reinforces and encourages rather than
it's really important. Spending time with loved ones, with good friends, laughter. Okay, that's super, super important. Don't underestimate how important friends are.
Right, so listen, we'll have you on again for sure. And we've got a few more workshops and things coming up, so we'll be talking about things like that as well. But your website, brainreframe.com, and I like, that's the other thing when I meet you. I love that, the title of that, because I'm like, reframe the way you think.
Yeah, it's all about that.
So have a look at that, Brain Reframe, and you've got some workshops and things that you're advertising.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.